Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moment in every woman's life when she realizes she's done shrinking to fit into spaces that were never built for her. That moment, that fire, that awakening, is when she becomes a woman no one can ignore. It doesn't start with someone noticing you. It starts with you noticing yourself. The way you walk into a room, the way you command your presence without uttering a word, the way your silence can echo louder than noise. This is power. Not given, claimed, a woman who is sure of herself becomes a force. She doesn't chase attention. She attracts it, not with glitter or noise, but with purpose. She knows who she is. She's not waiting for someone to hand her a seat at the table. She's building her own. But let me tell you this, becoming unforgettable is not about being loud or perfect or polished. It's about being real, real with your ambition, real with your values, real with your standards. You want to be a woman he can't ignore. Be the woman you can't ignore first. Show up for yourself like no one else ever has. Set boundaries that protect your energy like it's gold. Because it is. You don't have to play small to be loved. You don't have to soften your shine to be accepted. You are allowed to be both fire and grace. You're allowed to dream out loud. You're allowed to want more. And go get it. He won't ignore the woman who's already whole on her own. The woman who doesn't wait to be chosen because she already chose herself. That kind of woman doesn't compete. She simply rises. And when she walks into his life, it's not about capturing his gaze, it's about matching her energy. That's the difference. Be bold enough to be seen, brave enough to be misunderstood, and powerful enough to never need permission. You are not here to be tolerated. You're here to be remembered. Self-worth comes from within, not from validation. That's a truth that many hear but few truly live by. In a world that constantly demands you to prove yourself, through looks, through likes, through status, through someone else's approval, it's easy to forget that the most powerful kind of worth is the one you don't need to explain, the one you carry quietly and confidently in your soul. You weren't born needing someone to tell you you're good enough. You didn't come into this world seeking applause or permission. That came later, when the world tried to teach you that your value depended on your reflection in someone else's eyes. But the truth is, every compliment, every acknowledgement, every affirmation, those are bonuses, not requirements. You don't need them to feel complete. They should never be the foundation of your self-esteem. When your sense of worth is rooted in validation, it becomes a fragile thing. One bad comment, one rejection, one person walking away, and suddenly you feel like you're less. But when it comes from within, it becomes unshakable. It doesn't matter who claps, who stays, who notices. You know who you are. You know what you bring to the table. You know what you deserve. There's a quiet power in that kind of knowing. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, and it doesn't chase. It simply stands. It walks tall, speaks truth, and doesn't fold under pressure. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to overcompensate. She doesn't perform for approval or dim her light to make others feel comfortable. She doesn't wait to be loved to feel lovable. She already is. So many women spend years trying to mold themselves into who they think they need to be to receive love, attention, and respect. They compromise. They shrink, they adjust, and in doing so, they lose the very essence of who they are. But real self-worth means standing in your truth even when it's inconvenient, even when it's lonely, even when it costs you things that once seemed important. Validation is fleeting. One day you're celebrated, the next day you're forgotten. One day you're goals, the next you're criticized. If you tie your identity to the applause, you'll always be chasing it. And you'll never feel secure, but when you've built your worth from the inside out, you're free, free from needing constant reassurance, free from bending yourself into shapes that don't fit you, free from being affected by every opinion that passes by. This isn't about arrogance. It's not about walking through the world with a chip on your shoulder. It's about being grounded, rooted, unapologetically centered in who you are. It's about knowing that you are allowed to take up space, not because someone gave you permission, but because you exist. Because you matter, because your voice, your thoughts, your energy, they have value just as they are. Think of the people you admire, not for their popularity, but for their presence. The ones who don't need to be loud to be felt. The ones who don't crave attention, yet always seem to have it. That's the energy that comes from true self, worth. It's magnetic. It's quiet but powerful, and it doesn't rely on trends, compliments, or the opinions of others to thrive. It takes work to get there. It takes unlearning years of being told that your worth depends on how beautiful you are, how likable you are, or how much someone wants you. It takes discipline to stop checking your value through someone else's lens. But every time you choose yourself, every time you affirm your own voice, every time you walk away from anything that makes you feel small, you're building something no one can take away. That kind of worth shows up in the way you speak, the way you dress, the way you hold your head up high even when no one's looking. It's in the way you demand respect without raising your voice, in the way you say no without guilt, in the way you pursue your goals like they were already yours. That's the kind of confidence that makes people stop and take notice, not because you're begging for it, but because you're not. When a woman taps into that internal reservoir of self-worth, she becomes unstoppable. Her decisions become clearer, her boundaries become firmer, her energy becomes sacred, and whether someone stays or goes, whether someone praises or critiques, it doesn't shake her, because her worth was never tied to their reaction in the first place. This is the journey, not of becoming something you're not, but of remembering who you've always been, stripping away the need to be liked, releasing the urge to compare, and learning to stand so firmly in your truth that validation becomes irrelevant. You don't need to be told you're enough when you already know you are. That's the kind of woman who walks through life with fire in her soul and peace in her heart. That's the kind of woman who becomes unforgettable. Confidence isn't always the loudest voice in the room. It doesn't always wear red lipstick or high heels. It doesn't always need to shout. But when it walks in, it's undeniable. It's the energy that makes people turn their heads without knowing why. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you breathe. Confidence is your loudest language, and once you learn to speak it fluently, everything changes. You don't need to have it all figured out to walk like you belong. Confidence isn't perfection, it's presence. It's not about being the smartest, the most experienced, or the most beautiful. It's about knowing that you are enough exactly as you are right now. It's about showing up anyway, even when you're scared, even when your hands shake, even when your voice trembles. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else, your growth, your dreams, your self-respect, is more important than fear. People often mistake confidence for arrogance, but they are nothing alike. Arrogance is loud and insecure. Confidence is calm and certain. Arrogance demands attention. Confidence naturally attracts it. The most confident people are rarely the ones bragging about themselves. They don't need to. Their energy says it all. It's the unspoken language of self-trust, of alignment, of inner strength that doesn't waver with opinions or approval. You see, you teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. Walk into a room with your head high and the world responds differently. Speak your truth without apology and suddenly you're respected in ways you never imagined. Believe in your own worth and others begin to believe in it too. That's how powerful your energy is. That's how loud your confidence can be, without saying a single word. But confidence isn't born in comfort. It's built in discomfort, in pushing yourself, in stepping into spaces that intimidate you, in trying, failing, learning, and showing up again. Every time you do something that scares you, you're expanding your capacity. You're teaching your body, your mind, and your spirit that you can survive and thrive outside your comfort zone. and slowly that becomes your new normal. Confidence also comes from preparation, from doing the work when no one's watching, from staying committed when it's not glamorous, from knowing you've earned your place. When you prepare, you don't walk into the room hoping you'll be enough. You know you are, that knowing becomes your power. That inner certainty becomes your language. Speak it in the way you make decisions, in the way you don't over-explain your boundaries, in the way you choose relationships that match your energy instead of ones you have to shrink for. Speak it in the way you take up space, physically, emotionally, mentally. Don't apologize for wanting more. Don't dim yourself because others haven't found their light yet. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when comparison tries to steal your joy, when rejection makes you question yourself. That's normal. But confidence isn't about never feeling doubt. It's about not giving it the final word. It's about knowing that rejection is redirection and comparison is the thief of clarity. You are not here to be anyone else. You are here to be you, fully, loudly, and unapologetically. When you speak confidence fluently, your life starts to change. Not because the world becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting to be discovered. You stop tiptoeing around your dreams like they're too big. You claim them. You go after them. You start conversations. You make moves. You trust your intuition, and people feel that. Confidence doesn't mean you don't ask questions. It means you're not afraid to. It doesn't mean you're never nervous. It means you don't let nerves stop you. It means showing up even when it's hard, because you know your voice matters. You matter. So speak this language with your posture, with your choices, with your silence even. Sometimes confidence is knowing when not to speak. Sometimes it's walking away from what doesn't serve you, even when it's tempting to stay. Sometimes it's saying no without guilt. Sometimes it's saying yes without needing a second opinion. The most magnetic women in the world aren't always the most flawless. They're the most real, the most rooted, the most intentional, and when you build your confidence from within, that kind of power can't be ignored. That kind of energy doesn't beg to be seen. It's felt instantly, because it comes from a deep place of self, awareness and self-trust. You don't need to prove yourself to earn your place. You are the place. Walk into every room like your presence is a gift, because it is. Stand tall not because life has always been easy, but because you've risen anyway. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes your confidence louder than words. For far too long, women have been told to choose. Be soft or be strong. Be graceful or be driven. Be nurturing or be assertive. As if elegance and ambition couldn't coexist within the same woman. As if being powerful meant sacrificing poise, and being refined meant suppressing your hunger for more. But that's the oldest lie in the book. Elegance and ambition are not opposites. They are your power twins. Together, they make you unstoppable. There is something deeply magnetic about a woman who moves with both intention and grace, who knows what she wants but doesn't need to bulldoze her way to get it, who carries herself with calm confidence, with sharp focus, with quiet fire in her eyes. She doesn't yell to be heard. She doesn't compete to be seen. She doesn't sacrifice her softness to earn strength. She understands that her elegance is not weakness, it's wisdom. Elegance isn't about being passive. It's not about staying quiet or always being agreeable. Real elegance is control. It's emotional intelligence. It's knowing how to hold your ground with calm authority. It's the ability to walk away from chaos with your dignity intact. It's power expressed with restraint, and when that elegance is paired with ambition, that's when the world starts paying attention. Ambition on its own can be powerful, but when it's unbalanced, it can become forceful, aggressive, even draining. But ambition that is rooted in elegance, that's focused, that's refined, that's sustainable. It's a type of drive that doesn't burn out. It burns steady. You don't need to stomp to make progress. You don't need to harden yourself to be taken seriously. When you pair ambition with elegance, you allow yourself to win without losing yourself. Women are often made to feel like they have to mask one side to let the other flourish. Like if you're ambitious, you have to be aggressive, sharp, edged, unrelenting. Or if you're elegant, you must be passive, pleasing, quiet. But that's a trap designed to keep you small. Because when you realize that both sides can exist and thrive, within you, you become dangerous in the best way. Think about it. A woman who walks into a room with calm confidence, who listens more than she speaks, who doesn't need to boast about her goals but clearly has them, who treats everyone with grace and doesn't compromise on her standards. That woman doesn't just attract attention, she commands respect. And it's not because she's trying to, it's because her energy speaks for her. Elegance makes your ambition magnetic. It wraps your goals in presence. It makes people want to listen, want to follow, want to believe in your vision. And ambition gives your elegance depth. It keeps you moving forward. It reminds the world that your grace isn't complacency. It's power under control. You're not waiting for a seat at the table. You're building your own, and you're doing it without losing the essence of who you are. This balance is not about perfection. It's not about crafting an image or trying to impress. It's about alignment. It's about knowing who you are and allowing that to lead. It's about showing up fully in every room, every opportunity, every decision, with both your drive and your dignity intact. A woman who embodies both elegance and ambition is rare, not because it's impossible, but because she had to fight to become that way. She had to unlearn the belief that being nice meant being walked over. She had to release the pressure to prove her strength by becoming hard. She had to build the kind of confidence that doesn't shout. She had to trust her instincts in a world that told her to second, guess them. And she had to choose herself again and again, not just in big moments, but in the little ones too, in the way she speaks to herself, in the way she chooses who and what she allows into her space, in the way she stays committed to her goals even when no one else understands them. That's elegance, that's ambition, and that's power. Let go of the idea that you need to be one thing. You don't need to choose between being soft and strong. You don't need to shrink your ambition to stay likable, and you don't need to dull your elegance to seem serious. You are allowed to be fully expressed. You are allowed to take up space, in heels or in sneakers, in silence or in speeches, with dreams that scare you and presence that soothes others. Because when you show up as both, when your elegance speaks before you even open your mouth, and your ambition moves things forward with quiet force, you become unforgettable, not because you demand attention, but because you don't need to. You radiate something deeper, something real, something that lasts, so embrace both. Nurture both. Let your elegance refine your ambition. Let your ambition fuel your elegance. Together, they are not just parts of you. They are your edge. They are your power. There is a difference between being chosen and being aligned. There is a difference between being liked and being respected. And the bridge between those two is your standards. Knowing your standards and honoring them is not about being picky, difficult, or demanding. It's about protecting your peace, your energy, and your worth. And the moment you start lowering those standards just to be seen, just to be accepted, just to feel wanted, you begin to lose the very thing that makes you powerful, your self-respect. Standards are not rules you impose on others. They are reflections of what you believe you deserve. They are the boundaries you set to honor yourself. They are how you tell the world, this is how I expect to be treated, not because I think I'm better, but because I know I'm valuable. And here's the truth, people will only meet you at the level you expect to be met. If you keep allowing disrespect, inconsistency, or bare minimum effort, you are teaching others that it's acceptable. That silence becomes permission. A woman who knows her standards doesn't settle, not because she thinks she's perfect, but because she knows her peace isn't negotiable. She knows her time is not disposable. She knows that her love, her loyalty, her energy, they are sacred, and she would rather wait alone than entertain what doesn't match her value. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. It can be tempting to bend, to justify, to give second, third, and 10th chances because you want to see the best in someone. It can be tempting to laugh off red flags, to tell yourself it's not that deep, to compromise just this once. But every time you do that, you chip away at your own self-trust. You tell yourself that your standards aren't worth holding, that your voice isn't worth listening to, and over time that becomes a pattern, one that's hard to break. But let's get one thing clear. Having standards is not about closing yourself off from love, friendship, or opportunity. It's about inviting the right kind, the kind that sees you, the kind that values you without conditions, the kind that doesn't require you to dilute yourself just to be chosen. Because if someone only accepts the watered-down version of you, that person was never meant to hold space for your full self anyway. Attention is easy to get. Validation is easy to chase, but both are temporary. They come and go with moods, trends, and convenience. Respect, on the other hand, is earned, and the fastest way to lose it is by abandoning your own standards. If you constantly adapt just to keep someone around, you'll start to disappear in the process. And no relationship, romantic or otherwise, is worth losing yourself over. A woman with standards will always stand out, not because she demands perfection, but because she doesn't settle for patterns that drain her. She knows the difference between effort and excuses, between love and control, between connection and convenience, and because of that, she doesn't have time for emotional games, unclear intentions, or one-sided investments. She's not impressed by potential. She's focused on consistency, but here's the part that takes real courage. Knowing your standards means being willing to walk away. It means choosing solitude over chaos. It means letting go of almosts, maybes, and somedays, in order to make space for what truly aligns with you. And yes, that can be lonely. Yes, it can be misunderstood, but that's the price of self-respect. And it's worth it every single time. When you hold your standards, you teach others how to approach you. You become a mirror for what you will and won't accept, and those who are meant for you will never be intimidated by your boundaries. They will be grateful for them. They will rise to meet you, because they see that what you're asking for isn't unreasonable. It's rooted in self-worth. And the irony is, the very things people often lower their standards to gain, attention, affection, companionship, are the very things they end up losing when those relationships are built on compromise rather than truth. But when you lead with standards, you attract depth. You attract people who want to grow with you, not control you. People who value your mind, not just your presence. People who are consistent, not convenient. So don't be afraid to raise the bar. Don't shrink to be palatable. Don't mute your voice to be accepted. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. If it requires you to abandon yourself, it's not meant for you. And if someone walks away because you refuse to lower your standards, let them. You didn't lose anything. You just made space for something real. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You're just not willing to settle for less than you deserve. And that is your power, that is your edge, that is the standard, and it starts with you. There comes a time in every woman's life when she gets tired. Not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Tired of proving, tired of pushing, tired of chasing people, opportunities, approval, love. She realizes that everything she's been chasing has one thing in common. It's running away. And the harder she chases, the more exhausted she becomes, and the less fulfilled she feels. That's when the shift begins. That's when she learns the power of stillness, the magic of alignment, the strength in choosing to attract instead of chase. You see, chasing is rooted in lack. It's a signal that you believe you don't already have it, that you're not enough without it, that you must earn it, convince it, pull it in by force. But attraction, Attraction is rooted in belief. It's grounded in energy. It's a quiet confidence that knows what's meant for you is already finding its way, and what isn't will never stain, no matter how tightly you cling to it. When you chase, you abandon yourself, you stretch, you mold, you contort, you overgive, you overexplain, you overstay, you begin negotiating your worth for scraps of attention. You start trading your time, your energy, your softness just to feel seen. And the cruel irony is that people sense that desperation. Energy doesn't lie. They sense the imbalance, the craving, the need, and instead of moving closer, they pull away, not because you're not worthy, but because you're not centered. You're not magnetic, you're too busy running, but when you stop chasing, everything shifts, not because you stop caring, but because you start caring about you more. You shift your focus inward, you build. You heal, you glow up, not just in looks, but in depth, in presence, in purpose. You begin to show up in rooms not to be chosen, but to choose. You stop begging and start observing. You stop chasing closure and start creating clarity within yourself. You move different, and the world feels that difference. Attraction is about alignment. It's about becoming the kind of woman who naturally draws in what she deserves, not by forcing it, but by being it. When you are at peace with yourself, confident in your presence, grounded in your values, people, opportunities, energy, they flow to you. They feel safe with you, curious about you, inspired by you, and not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're no longer trying at all. You're just being, you attract what you reflect. So if you reflect chaos, you'll attract confusion. If you reflect neediness, you'll attract people who take. If you reflect peace, strength, and purpose, you'll attract others who are aligned with those same values. You don't need to scream your worth. You just need to embody it. The right people will recognize it instantly. The wrong ones never would have, no matter how much you chased. This is not about being passive. It's not about waiting around doing nothing. It's about becoming so full within yourself that anything that doesn't match your vibration bounces off you. It's about raising your standards, deepening your boundaries, and knowing that your presence alone is enough to shift the room. You don't chase energy like that. You respect it. You're drawn to it. That's why the moment you stop chasing is the moment you start attracting, because your power returns to you. You're no longer giving it away for validation. You're no longer hunting for things that don't want to be caught. You are focused, you are aligned, and in that state you don't need to ask for love, attention, or recognition. You become it. You're no longer trying to prove you're enough. You know you are. You're no longer waiting to be seen. You see yourself. You're no longer hoping to be chosen. You choose you, and when you do, others do too. That's when the calls come. That's when the energy shifts. That's when people wonder what changed about you, what you've done differently. The truth is, you stopped running after the world and let it come to you. The most magnetic women aren't chasing anything. They're too busy building themselves. They're too immersed in their own lives, their passions, their self-respect to beg for anything. They don't audition for love. They don't perform for acceptance. They attract because they know their value doesn't fluctuate based on who sees it. It's constant, solid, unwavering. So ask yourself, what are you chasing? And what if instead you turned that energy inward? What if you became so deeply aligned with your own truth that you no longer needed to look outward for confirmation? What if everything you wanted started showing up, not because you forced it, but because you became the version of you who receives it with ease? That's the power of attraction. It doesn't beg, it doesn't plead, it doesn't exhaust, it simply is. And when you step into that energy, fully, unapologetically, you become unforgettable, not because you chased, but because you stopped.